Hello everybody, thank you for joining along for another one. We are here again with the 2011 Salvage Ram 1500 and we have got a lot on the plate for today. Our salvage inspection for this truck is tomorrow and we've got a lot of boxes to check off. We got to completely rebuild the brake system, including the rear e-brake, swapping out the CV axles, along with tackling anything and everything we find along the way to make sure this thing will pass its salvage inspection. Get this thing lifted up, put it on jack stands, pull the wheels off, and we can go and find out exactly what it is we're going to have to do here. Let's get right into it. Looking at front brakes here, front looks good. It isn't too lipped or anything. If we look at the back side, we've got definitely some uneven wear and some pitting. So these rotors, unfortunately, are done. New pads and new rotors on the front here. There's a little bit of cracking in our sway bar end links on the front. So we're gonna have to replace these guys, I think. They'd be safe to drive on, but I don't think it will pass the salvage inspection with them showing that much wear. Everything else seems pretty good up front. Shock on this side doesn't appear to be leaking or have any issues. I felt with the pry bar on all the bushings and everything felt pretty good. The other way to test to see how good all the front end components are, get this wedged underneath here. You can feel a little bit of suspension action if we look in here. No clunking, no funny wear. Ball joints feel good. The other side is more or less the same. The only difference is we do have a little bit of signs of leakage from the shock. I'm gonna try and clean that up and see if it'll be okay for now. Worst comes to worst, we can go pick up new front shocks, but if we can avoid it, we will. Same thing on this side. Right in here, you can see the contact patch is pretty bad and they're pretty pitted and gross. So gotta get them off and get the new ones on. Haven't pulled the rear discs off yet, but same thing. There's holes and pitting in the rear discs. So they are dead. Sway bar end links on the rear look to be in good shape. Shocks are a little ugly on the back, but they don't appear to be leaking and they don't appear to have any issues. We're gonna leave them for now, especially because we might do a drop kit on this truck at some point, but I'm going to assume that the e-brakes need new shoes. They're only about $50. We'll get those swapped out as well. Have to clean up and lubricate our e-brake cable. Might be a little bit of a question mark, but that's okay. We'll get that figured. If we look, both of our CV boots on both sides of the front are dead. We're going to get new CV axles as well. If we look at this side, same thing, and torn right off, which is all right. Okay, so we're headed. We're gonna go pick up some parts here in the SS, and we'll be right back. Back we are. Got a whole bunch of goodies. End up taking things in probably one by one here, because this is a lot of stuff. First thing on the list, we need some rear brake shoes. So let's take these in and go get that e-brake assembled. First thing on the list, get the brake caliper off, pull the disc off, and see how bad all of the e-brake components look underneath of this. So bolts are removed. Let's get the caliper off. Pads have got lots of life left on them. They're just gross and showing other signs of wear that we don't want. That guy back there for now. How much? I have a biatch. These are gonna be, gotta pull this guy off there. We've got our parking brake here. So there's shoes internal to this rotor that act as the parking brake that squeeze open to hold against this part of the rotor internally. And that's what your parking brake is. So we have cable go to here, pulls on this lever, and when it pulls on that lever, it expands those. But we're having trouble getting it off. The rubber plug right there. If we pop that out, it exposes an adjuster wheel. We can adjust the brakes so there's less tension on them, or they come further in, and then it should be a little easier to pop this guy off. There we go. Now we're finally getting some movement. Took a lot of persuasion with that guy, but we got the old rotor off. This side was pretty stuck. The other side's pretty free feeling. So hopefully the other side won't be as bad. Next steps here, if we look, definitely is a bit corroded, but like the adjustment wheel still moves nice and free. The spring will be cleanable and still moves. We're gonna have to pop these clips off. That's the retainers for the shoes. Get the old shoes off. We'll probably vapor blast some parts. We have a vapor hone machine here at the shop. Put it all together with the new shoes. We should be good to go. Yeah, we definitely need to replace these. That's what's left of our corroded off pad material. Ow, that hurt. All right, that was a royal pain, but we got there. This is the lever actuator arm, and the cable pulls through that little eyelet here to engage or disengage the e-brake. This isn't designed very well and doesn't come out very easily. So we did get it out, and I will be able to put it in the vapor blast cabinet. Hopefully the other side isn't that bad, but this is just seized solid and doesn't move back and forth easily like it's supposed to. So we're gonna try and clean this up as best we can before it goes back in. That way, hopefully we have good actuation of our e-brake, which isn't something that's super important for daily driving in an auto, but it is super important for safety reasons if you ever need it, and it is super important for passing a salvage inspection. I'm gonna go get all this stuff in the vapor cabinet, clean it all up, and then we'll try and put it all back together. Got this stuff all done through the vapor cabinet. If we go over here, I can show you. Took my chain off because it interferes with my mic, but got all the other components all vapored and blasted off all the corrosion. So, much, much better. Moves nice and freely. Now, I'm gonna grab a wire brush, clean up as much of the back flange stuff here as I can, and we can start putting it back together, get this guy back in, get everything all lubricated and reassembled. Time to get this back in. I'm gonna put a dab of white lithium grease in the joint here. Time to turn this pile of parts into an e-brake. Springs are installed on the bottom there, connected on both sides of the shoes. Next steps here, get the top spring in, the adjuster in, and then we can reinstall our pins and clips to hold everything in place. Then we can install the new rotor and new pads. First thing was put the back spring on the bottom. Second was put the front spring on the bottom. Once that was all assembled, put in the slack adjuster, then put in the top spring here. And then after that, slid our pins in to the back side and put our clips on either side to hold the pins in place. I got the new rotor out of the box. One of the most important things to do when putting a new rotor on any vehicle is you need to grab yourselves some of this lovely crap and give it a good clean, because they're usually shipped out with a kind of film oil on them so they don't rust. And you need to make sure that that's off, otherwise you're gonna contaminate your brand new brake pads. New rotor is on. Gone and adjusted the adjustment point for the shoes on the back. Might adjust them both a little after, just to make sure they're right where I want them. For now, this one should be pretty ballpark. Basically, you're just adjusting it out until the point where the brake can't move, and then you pull it back a bit. We'll do some testing with that once both sides are done with the actual e-brake pedal and make sure everything's happy and nothing's dragging. But this side should be good. Just gonna pull this guy apart here so that we can grease our slide pins and check everything out, along with pull our brake pads out, because we can't pull our brake pads out until the caliper bracket is removed from the caliper. Bracket's installed, pads are clicked onto the bracket. Clicked our new little tabs on both sides that help retain the pads. The pins are actually sliding pretty good. but I like to use this lovely stuff right here. Works really good as a brake lubricant. I used my ball joint C-clamp that I usually like to use for brakes to compress the caliper piston. So the caliper piston is fully in. I'm just gonna grease these pins with a little bit of this guy, bolt this on, and this corner is done. Celebration time. Side is done. I'm gonna go do the other side and I'll catch you guys in the front. Okay, so we're making progress. Back is all done. Wheels are bolted on. We're good to go there. Time for the front to get done. I may or may not have cheated. And when I did the back, I did the first one on camera and did the second one off camera. And that meant I learned all my stupid lessons on camera, did all the fighting with it on camera, and then the second one I got it done in like a half an hour. So I figured I'd reverse the process for this. So I got this side pretty much all done. The only thing left is to finish the sway bar in link, but I'm gonna finish that because I gotta undo the other side as well. But we got rotor, pads, CV axle changed, everything all cleaned up. This side, the end link is all undone. It just needs popped off. And we'll move to this side, get this one popped off, then get the brake rotor and pads done, along with the CV axle, clean up any dripping from the shock and anything else, and we should be done on this corner. As I mentioned a few moments ago, the next thing on the list was to get the sway bar end links dealt with. I wasn't able to get the one on the other side completely swapped until the one on this side was out, because basically a sway bar is just a lateral spring that helps both sides of the suspension move at the same progressive rate. So once I got the old ones out, we swapped the new ones in, I got them all torqued down and bolted up, and after that we moved on to getting the ball joint removed. Sometimes removing a ball joint from a steering knuckle can be a royal pain in the backside, but this time it wasn't too bad. A couple quick rings with the hammer and you get it to pop right loose. We were able to separate the upper control arm from the steering knuckle. At this point, with the steering knuckle and the ball joint separated, removing the CV axle is quite easy. We had already removed the nut earlier, so it was just a matter of popping it off the differential and sliding it right out. With the CV axle out, we did a little bit of spraying down with some brake clean to clean up some of the leaked out suspension fluid, and then I worked on getting the caliper removed from the rotor, and then getting the rotor removed from the hub. Removing these retaining clips from the face of the rotor was kind of a painful part of that process, but it likely means that this truck has spent a lot of time on the highway and might be an indication that those were the original brake rotors coming off at 170,000 kilometers. With everything stripped down about as far as it needed to be stripped down, I got to cleaning. And between a leaky CV axle spraying grease everywhere and a leaky shock putting suspension fluid everywhere, this corner of the truck was freaking disgusting. We did pretty good in our cleanup process though, and I got rid of most of the grease, grime, and crap that was stuck to everything. A little bit of compressed air, some brake clean, and a toothbrush goes a really long ways. With everything all cleaned up, got the new CV axle put in place, started the nut on there, placed the brake rotor on, and got the ball joint back set into the steering knuckle. We then separated the brake caliper bracket from the brake caliper itself, pulled it all apart, greased our brake caliper pins so they were sliding nicely with the same grease as we used on the rear, got the brake caliper bracket bolted to the steering knuckle, and then installed our new brake pads and our new brake pad retaining clips. With the brake pads and caliper bracket back installed on the truck, I cleaned up the caliper a bit and busted out my massive beefy ball joint C-clamp, got the caliper piston back compressed in all the way, and slid the caliper back on the truck so we could finish our final assembly. With the end in sight, I made sure to trace my brake line and my ABS wire to make sure it was clipped in all the correct places and wasn't going to get hurt. Then I busted out my impact, made sure to zip down the nut on the CV axle and get that all tightened up. And after that, it was just a matter of getting a wrench out, tightening up the ball joint back in the steering knuckle, and we were all done.
All right, so it's getting really late, but we're getting there. I swear I'm not that crazy yet.
As you have watched, this side is all assembled. Got our ball joint tightened down,
our tie rod end done and tightened down, our axle on and tightened down, stub shaft in on the other side, new brake rotor, new pads, and we should be good to go. I'm gonna put the fender liners back in. There's a couple things I don't know if they're gonna care about for the salvage inspection. I'm hoping they don't. I still have not swapped out that mirror. Looking at it like it's cosmetic. If I had a cap, I could actually just put it on and it would be done. But I have mirrors, it's late enough and I still got an hour to drive back home from the shop that I don't feel like swapping them tonight. And they are supposed to give me a grace period. If they fail the truck for any reason, they're supposed to give me, I can't remember if it's 1 or 2 weeks, but I either have 1 or 2 weeks to get everything fixed and bring it back to get check mark done. So if they get grumpy about it, it is what it is, and I'll get those mirrors swapped out. Hopefully that should be okay. Yeah, I see remnants of a couple leak spots, maybe on a couple things, but nothing too crazy, and I can't seem to find where any of it's coming from. So I'm gonna clean it up and hope for the best. And I guess we'll see what happens. It's really hard to tell because I don't have any new puddles, but I definitely have some old drippy looking dirty spots. I guess we'll see. Hopefully it's fine. Interior is still gross. That shouldn't matter. Hood is white. Shouldn't matter. Fluid levels are good. We'll see here. I'm gonna get the fender liners back in, and then I'll join you guys back in a second, and we'll give the whole truck a once over before we take it for a test drive. Fender liner 1, in. Fender liner 2, in. Get the wheels bolted on. I'm gonna clean up the remnants of a day's worth of working on the truck. So, yeah, I'll join you guys when it's on the ground. I'm a little more clean, and we can give a little walkthrough here. If there's anything I gotta touch up, check, do, and then we can go drop this thing off. I've got a car waiting for me already at the shop, so this can be there for them in the morning, and we should be good. Finally to the end of it. Everything's all nice and cleaned up. The only thing left that I found is one of the reverse light bulbs is dead. But aside from that, that's a quick 2-second thing, and I can talk to the shop about that. I'm not worried about that. All the other lights work. All the other stuff works. 4x4 works. Nothing appears to be leaking, at least as of yet. I took it for a test drive to make sure, and everything is super happy and healthy. Wheels are torqued. All the bolts and nuts and everything are torqued for the front and for the rear. The e-brake is working. The brakes are bedded. It's been a long day, but hopefully we should, keyword being should, be good to pass. I don't know if they're gonna fail it for that mirror or not. I don't know if they're gonna fail it for the windshield or not. Aside from that, there shouldn't really be anything. Nothing appears to be leaking. There's no clunking, no nothing. The thing drives so smooth. I can't believe how smooth it drives. Very happy about that. I'm gonna go drop it at the shop where I left the SS sedan. I'm gonna go hop in that, drive home, get a good sleep, and I guess they'll inspect this tomorrow. Thank you very much for watching another video here, guys. I'm trying to get as much stuff out to you as I can. And I know things are in early stages, but every time you guys engage with content, I appreciate it so much more than you know. Please like, subscribe, comment, all those things. Thank you very much for being here. You have yourself a wonderful day, and I'll catch you in the next one.